The Smith machine hip thrust is going to primarily train the glutes. The glutes have three main parts: the glute max, the glute medius, and the glute minimus. In this movement, the glute max does the majority of the work as it is the primary hip extensor and the largest of the three glute muscles. This is a shortened position bias, meaning that the most challenging part of the movement is at the top lockout where your hips are fully extended. For setup, you want a bench or box that is about knee height. If you can't find something that lines up with your knee, choose something slightly taller and then elevate your feet using plates or a small box so everything matches. The goal is to have your knees, hips, and shoulders form a straight line at the top of the movement. Lower the bar on the Smith machine until it's close to the same height as the bench and grab a barbell pad for your hips. Place the bench so that when you're set up and you unrack the bar lays comfortably in the crease of your hips. So if you have a longer torso, the bench will be farther back from the machine. But if you're like me and have a shorter torso, that bench is going to be a little bit closer to the machine. You just need to place the bench so the bar, when it's unracked, is lined up in your hip crease. Position your back on the bench just below the bottom of your shoulder blades, kind of around the sports bra. Place your feet flat and shoulder width apart with the toes pointing forward. Your feet should be positioned so that your shins are vertical at the top and your knee is in line and above your heels. If your feet are either too far forward or too far back, you're going to recruit either more quad or hamstring. We are aiming for a nice 90-degree knee bend at the top, where the knees are stacked right above the ankle, and your body is a straight line from knee to hip to shoulder. For execution, unrack the bar by lifting slightly and rotating the hooks and let it settle into your hip crease. Before you start your reps, push your ribs down and lightly posterior tilt your pelvis to create a neutral, stacked torso and engage your core. This is so important. We really want our core engaged throughout the entire movement. A strong, tight, engaged core allows you to achieve full hip extension without relying on your lower back. So it keeps the tension on the glutes where it belongs and not on the lower back. For your rep, lower your hips with control in a slow tempo by hinging at the hips. Your torso and head should move together as one unit. Think about your upper body pivoting over the edge of the bench and your head following. From the bottom position, drive through your entire foot. Don't let those toes come off. You want to think about contracting and squeezing the glutes at the bottom to push the hips up toward the ceiling. Now at the top, you want to make sure you're fully extended at the hips and form a straight line from knees to hips to shoulders. Pause briefly for 1 to 2 seconds at the top. Think about squeezing your glutes hard for a brief pause while keeping the ribs down, core braced, chin tucked, and glutes fully engaged. And repeat this for every rep with a controlled eccentric stretch as you lower back down with control and avoid bouncing out of the bottom. Each rep should be smooth, controlled, and intentional. One of the most common mistakes is failing to reach full hip extension at the top, so not finishing in that straight line from the knees to hip to shoulder. Sometimes this happens because the load is just too heavy, and it is totally okay to push for heavy weight and miss that full extension every once in a while. But for a majority of your training, if you cannot reach that full extension, you should reduce the weight. Another common mistake is moving through the spine instead of the hips. This usually shows up as flaring the ribs and overextending the lower back, which shifts the work away from the glutes and onto the lumbar spine. So if you feel this more in your lower back than your glutes, this is probably the issue. To fix this, push the ribs down and lightly posterior tilt the pelvis to create a stacked neutral torso. A braced core allows you to reach that full hip extension with a flat, stable spine, keeping the tension on the glutes and protecting the lower back. This is what I call stacking the torso. We really just want to think about that upper body moving as one solid unit. Imagine a board running along your torso as you move. Finally, the last common mistake I see is looking up rather than keeping the chin tucked throughout the movement. We want to keep the chin tucked and aim for a slight double chin. This just helps us better maintain that stacked neutral torso.